Hello, everyone. This is the Free American Press with your host, Alexander Horat. Today, we're going to be having a very special guest on the show, and his name is Kevin, and he's with New Mission USA, and he actually has a degree in biology. And today, we're going to be talking a little bit about hydrogen energy. But before we get into it, if you could please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video, that would be really appreciated. Hello, Kevin. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Alex. And hey, thanks for having me. And found your channel through the Economic Ninja. And I remember right when I found your channel, it was like, this guy, he's crushing it. Like you are so far ahead of your time. I wish I started looking into this stuff at your age and stuff. But nice work on getting the word out there and keeping an open mind to I think you're one of the few individuals out there that has a very open mind, and you're open to all possibilities. And I think that's actually a skill that's often underlooked or overlooked, excuse me.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that, Kevin, and thanks for all the work you're doing on your channel as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about hydrogen energy today. You were telling me how you're following it. So could you tell the viewers a little bit about what you know on that?
Yeah, so before I go into that, I just want to make it clear that I'm not a financial expert of any kind. I got a degree in biology, and some things came up throughout my education that I have been tracking for a while now. And just sort of keeping it on my radar. Some of these technologies, these forms of energy out there, they sound crazy, but when you really start to dig into the roots of it, it's not so far-fetched from reality. And there are some technologies out there that involve hydrogen that are truly groundbreaking. And but basically this all started back when I took a physics course. One of my instructors when I took physics was they were talking about how the vehicle is only 30% efficient. And in my mind, that is horrible. 30% efficiency using gasoline, that's horrible. You got drag, friction, and stuff in the vehicle, and with all these things combined together, you kill the efficiency of the vehicle. And so I started looking into various alternatives of energy, and we did a few experiments in like chemistry, OChem, Gen Chem, certain biology labs where we would isolate hydrogen gas. And I think, as I recall, the form that we isolated in, and not to go too into the details, was just H2 gas. And then you run an electrolysis through basically a container of deionized water with some sort of ion like magnesium or something. You can isolate hydrogen gas doing this. And you can take the isolated hydrogen, put a match to it. It's a very simple experiment. And you can look this up on YouTube, actually. And put a match to it, and it actually ignites. And you get a very audible popping or combustion sound when you do this. So I went back to my physics instructor and I was like, so what's going on with hydrogen? Like, why don't we use hydrogen in as a fuel source for vehicles? And her response was that it's not efficient enough. It is combustible, but it's not efficient enough. And I go, okay, like I respected her opinion on it, and I thought it was it made sense. Gasoline, the oil is more efficient. So some time goes by, and I basically I kept it on my radar. I don't like to just dismiss things and go, all right, that is it. There's no way hydrogen would not work. So I kept it on my radar, and I haven't forgotten about it. So after I graduated, I started to look into it again when I started getting into investing. In fact, one of the things, not to get off topic, one of the things that I realized was Michael Burry was keeping his eyes on water investments for a long time. Now, I think he is more focused on the control of resources, as like out west, they had out west, you have a dry, arid climate. There are a lot of it gets real complicated when you start looking at the control of water in the ground. But when I lived in Colorado, I'm currently in the Midwest. When I lived in Colorado, I really started to grasp how expensive and the control over water was. It's just it was kind of foreign to me. I grew up I grew up basically using a well. Like my parents' home had a well, and that was just kind of like a new perspective for me. It was seeing like all these people paying for water and how expensive it was out west. And now obviously in the Midwest they got city water and stuff as well. You pay for that, but so anyway, I knew that Michael Burry has been watching this. And another thing I kept on my radar is just the simple idea of Michael Burry he's screaming inflation, inflation, all this stuff. And I want to go too in depth with this, but like he's screaming at everyone like, hey, wake up to the inflation. But he has said on the other side of this, it is prosperity. He has said that it's going to be like chaotic and there's prosperity on the other side. Sorry, I'll make the full circle on this. So just things that I kind of make a mental note of. But I knew that he was tracking hydrogen and stuff. So I eventually, I jumped into investing in 2019, and I decided to look into hydrogen technology. I stumbled upon this company called Fuel Cell. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not saying invest in this, but Fuel Cell is a company that's got all kinds of green energy patents. And I've been looking at their patents, and I go, these are, if you read through their patents, there are, it's like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why aren't we using these? Like, why is this so difficult to roll out? And I can only imagine the oil industry has, we have too many promises with the oil industry. So, but I believe making the full circle, I hope I convey this message correctly, but making the full circle with like all this technology I'm seeing, and these there are a lot of bright individuals, Michael Burry to be, one that stands out. I do believe he does his research, and like he's not afraid to go into these very sort of foreign paths to the common individual out there. And I have to wonder if he sees something that I might be seeing as well, and that is hydrogen technology. And maybe that's why maybe that's why he says it's prosperous on the other side. There are so many rabbit holes you can go down, but I'll focus on hydrogen on this one. But so Fuel Cell is one of a number of companies that have some very, very interesting patents when it comes to hydrogen technology. And this technology has been, you can look at these patents and they're written in like the 60s, the 70s. And it's just kind of like, all right, so what's going on? What's the snag? What's the hang up? And so I've kept it on my radar. So I basically ignored it for a while. It sounded like everything I was finding online is that hydrogen as a source of energy, and specifically, I like to bring up fuel for vehicles because it really starts to bring up some questionable things about the oil industry. I don't like conspiracies. That's not what I was after in all this, but there are certainly some things that need to be addressed. And there's literally a free form of energy all around us, and why aren't we using it? And I just kept going back to it and researching it. And so as I started to look into this, I found there's an individual out there, or actually, I think a few individuals that basically found a way to run a vehicle using hydrogen, but it's not in the form that I necessarily used in these lab experiments that I was doing in school. There's one snag. I don't want to go too in depth, but it's breaking the bonds between hydrogen and oxygen. And quick note, if any of your viewers are like they like reading about the science, they can reach me using my email in my about section of my channel at newmissionusa@gmail.com. Feel free to message me and maybe we can talk about this, because I think it's incredible technology.
Yeah,
I think it.
yeah.
So when I see um, these individuals that literally created, they found a way to isolate these derivatives of hydrogen and use it as a combustible source. The one guy built a dune buggy, and this is on YouTube, and I'm going to make a video about this, but about like kind of hashing up some more in-depth understanding on this. But in any case, I found these individuals that made these vehicles. They use hydrogen to power them. And long story short, everything I found that relates to hydrogen and the reason that we don't use it as a fuel source is because of politics and cronyism. Like,
Yep.
it is the massive number of promises that we've and agreements that we've agreed to, or that we made with like oil industries and like other big energy giants out there. I find it absolutely unacceptable. I think it's not to go into all of it, but I feel like the last 100 years are going to look like a scar on our nation's history. I mean, the things that we could have been doing differently, and hydrogen is just one of them. And another thing I was looking at, and I've been looking at the other forms of technology that we're using in the green agenda. And as I was reading through the green agenda, we're looking at today, the wind turbines, solar power, and what's the other one? They have talked about nuclear plants, but I think I could do a video on that at some point. But it's
Geothermal.
geothermal is another one, but it's these batteries.
Oh, right, yeah.
There are huge flaws in all these. I'm finding information that suggests well, I need to fact check this one, but I've heard that the wind turbines are so expensive now that by the time they get through their whole lifespan, the amount of energy it produces and like its cost effectiveness is not enough to basically it's not cost effective enough to pay back what the turbine costs to build it. Batteries, recycling issues,
Right.
solar panels have about 30 to 50 year lifespan, and I'm going, this is again unacceptable. And so and I'm telling you, when I looked in, I have had hydrogen on my radar. So I graduated in 2018. And I've had it on my radar and just kind of it's always been sort of a fascination to me. I don't know. And so when I looked into this, I found nothing. In fact, when you look it up on the government's website, they say there's some form of nitrogen oxides that it produces as a result of the combustion from a vehicle. And they apparently see that as sort of unacceptable. You can't have all these like nitrogen oxides or whatever. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I understand we have nitrogen in the air. I'm understanding this flow of molecules and stuff, but it doesn't add up, because when you combust nitrogen, your output is oxygen and hydrogen, or it's literally water and oxygen, and it's maybe some derivative of the two atoms. So sorry, I don't want to go too in depth with this,
Oh,
but
no, going down.
it,
That's really
okay.
yeah.
um, it makes so much sense to me to power our system using hydrogen. And then again, in my physics course, I've mapped out how you would, sorry, let me back up. One of the issues is breaking the bonds between hydrogen and oxygen. And I think I've even solved that problem. And it's absolutely ridiculous why we're not, it's like free energy at the tip of our fingers. And these, they're so simple that to build these items that would create these forms of energy. They're so simple. It's not some crazy experiment.
Yeah.
And so I, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're right. We already saw how they're building these power stations, like you were saying with this fuel cell. I think, like you were saying, the real reason why they don't want people to have free energy like this is because they want big oil basically to stay there, so they can make all this money and then buy up all the good farmland. And basically, like they say, you'll own nothing and be happy. So they first want to buy up everything. Once they control everything, okay, then you can have your free energy because we already control everything. That's kind of my
Yeah,
thought.
that could be. And I've even contemplated the idea of them first resetting the system to some sort of monetary system that they can, control. Like as you just mentioned, they control everything. But one of the big issues that I'm still digging into is that one derivative of hydrogen, one form of it, and I think it's I'm drawing a blank for the name. It's basically it's a three hydrogens, but it's a form of hydrogen in, I believe it's the gas form, where the government the government considers it to be nuclear. It is a nuclear technology. And so they don't want that just freely out to the public and in anyone's hands. So I go, all right. So, and by the way, you're you're the first person I'm telling all this to. You're the first person on YouTube. Um, I've only told a handful of people this, and this is part of the reason why I'm not doom and gloom about the future. I like to look at all paths. I mean, hey, it could be doom and gloom, but I think I'm kind of I'm optimistic, and I don't like to. I take a very I like to know all possibilities. I like to know all the avenues that we could go down, and there's a sliver of hope and faith that I have in humanity that is like, come on, like we've got a chance to do this right. We can make a perfect monetary system. We're solving one issue there. I won't go into that, but I go, could it be that we're trying to create a monetary system where we basically police the world through the monetary system? And I think people are starting to understand that and believe that as well. But then I'm looking beyond it and going, if we police the world through the monetary system, and I don't want to say whether I agree with it or not too. I have some problems that I'll address sometime about that, because I don't agree with the invasion of privacy and all that. But if we police the world with the monetary system, then it is possible to maybe then implement these hydrogen technologies. I think oil could be around for quite a long time, and this would be a transitioning methodology to this, and we would transition out of oil, but down the road we could essentially get rid of oil and use hydrogen as the form of energy. And but we're talking, even Elon Musk said, even if he had the button in front of him to where he could press it and then get rid of all of the oil, and he said it himself, that would be absolutely ridiculous to do that, and a very foolish move to make. You'd collapse the system. But right now, our economy seems to depend on a lot of inefficient forms of energy. And the more you dig into it, you go, okay, there's hydrogen over here. What's going on? So and to finish the full like narrative, maybe that's why they're trying to create this monetary system, so that we can roll out this form of hydrogen energy to make sure our countries aren't using it to build nuclear power. Or I even have to fact check that. I really want to know if it's actually a nuclear threat. But so that we can roll out this form of energy and bring it into the system. And the stuff that I've seen out there is absolutely insane. How there's one engineer out there, he built a dune buggy that runs on hydrogen, and the reporters say, can I take this hose and fill up my fuel tank? And he goes, yeah, technically you can. But there's videos of this on YouTube, and they've been buried. I absolutely think they've been buried. I hate the conspiracy thing.
It's all censorship. It's and
Yes.
what you're saying is so right, because I think even the sun is powered by hydrogen as well, right?
Yeah.
90% hydrogen. So like just looking at, our own lives, where do we get all our energy from? A lot of our energy is from hydrogen already. So one really important thing I'd like to ask you, you said you
Mhm.
did some experiments and stuff with hydrogen, and I do see, you're right, there's already companies starting to make hydrogen power plants and stuff. Could you explain it a little bit, in like more simple terms of how they make power through hydrogen?
Yeah. So it's a very simple experiment. It's it's very simple, but it's let's see. I wonder if this would have been a good link to throw up if I should have pulled up a diagram, but it's basically isolating hydrogen gas through electrolysis. If you start searching into that, search somewhere along those lines, you'll pull up a very simple experiment. It's got a positive and a negative electrode system that runs through. It's usually, if I remember correctly, we only use this deionized water. So it's water that it's pure water. It's purified water. It's only H2O. And a lot of water out there has H2O with all these minerals and stuff in it. Well, this is like filtered water, and it's like perfect H2O. So if you put you can use like a strip of magnesium into it, and you run an electrolysis through it, it breaks the let's see, if you look at a molecule of, see, now we're getting in depth, but if you look at it, a molecule of water, one molecule is oxygen and two hydrogens. And if you can break those bonds with the two oxygens, and then they combine, so now you have H2. It's dihydroxide, I'm sorry, not hydroxide. It's just hydrogen gas. So that the oxide, so the oxygen separates from there, and it'll go to the opposite charges. So I should have pulled up a diagram on this, but you basically you break the bonds, the hydrogens separate, that becomes a gas, and you can isolate that. And then the oxygen, goes to the opposite charge, and it isolates, and you can isolate. It's like you'll see two test tubes upside down, and you can isolate it in both the test tubes. And then our hydrogen gas is light, so it goes up, it collects at the top of the tube, and then we literally take the test tube while it's upside down, and you just set a match to it, and it goes, and it like
Yeah,
pops.
yeah, you're right. I just saw a video, basically how they're able to do this at home, pretty much like a home experiment. Do you think I should show that to the viewers? Uh, and
If you found one, sure, it's
yeah,
you
like
could, yeah. I hope to do a more visual breakdown of this as well.
it's pretty interesting what you're saying, because basically to make, hydrogen fuel and then do that, like he's showing you, that's basically what you're talking about. So it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I think pretty much the main thing is, people need to start looking into this, like you're talking about these companies starting to actually, make power plants and everything. Big investors like Michael Burry and everybody, starting to get on this while everybody's, worried about other things. I think it's definitely
Yep.
some big, uh, pretty much people can see that it's definitely an upcoming market for sure.
Yep. And now you can step back from all this. Your video from the other day was about water futures, and you were the first person that I saw bring it up. So, but that was something that I immediately keyed into. A lot of people might look at water futures and go, "Oh, it's like a uh, new market to invest in, or a new." But when I look at it, it's it's still more the scientific take on it, and it's, I guess, one way you can look at it is how the western part of America, I think that's where your market would be if you're just looking at control over resources and the commodities. That's how I look at it. There's absolutely the investment there, but I believe Michael Burry has been tracking that part for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It depends which country or state you're in. Like if you live in, say, South America where it rains everywhere, probably it's really not investable. But in like the West, where there's certain big pools of water where farmers get water, then it's definitely investable. So I
Oh yeah,
I get what you're saying there. That definitely makes sense.
yeah, and it's so if we implemented hydrogen technology, what is this then going to do? Like, it's all, water's already expensive in these dry regions of the US, and especially out west. But it's, imagine if we implemented it as a form of energy and fuel to various things, even if it's not vehicles, it like the other uses for it. Now you're talking, uh, you know, much more control. They want ease of access to maybe fresh water that's more inland, looking at it that way. Um,
So do you know if you can use salt water with this hydrogen as well to make hydrogen, or does it have to be fresh water?
as I, well, as I understand it, it has to be a pure form of hydrogen. So you have to get rid of essentially all your
All the salt and stuff.
ions, yeah, all your salts from it. So whether it's
Definitely.
fresh or salt, I
Yeah.
I I don't see any reason why you there. I've looked into that as well, isolating water from just the ocean and just tossing the salt from it and everything else. But it, like, it can be done. But I think the transportation of it, the whole logistics and supply chain of it all might be
More expensive.
costly.
Yeah, more expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can really just look at maybe tapping a ground well into the system and fueling up that way at maybe a gas station. You're pumping hydrogen, or it's if it was a vehicle, the way you put it into your vehicle is in the form of gas. As I've seen a couple other things about, like, just in the
Yeah,
liquid
like
form
this
as
this
well.
just
But
seems like legit green energy, like you're saying. Like even Tesla and everything, they're using all these
yep,
chemical batteries and everything, and it's really crazy what's going on.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm
and
gonna I'm gonna share the screen to show the viewers your channel. So please subscribe to New Mission USA. He makes a lot of really good videos on his channel, New Mission USA. And then yeah, here's a whole bunch of his vehicles, the Great Reset, and he's talking about a lot of really important topics. So if you could all please subscribe to that, that would be great. And would you like to tell the viewers a little bit more about your channel?
so let's see. Well, I guess in general, like I like to throw maybe some abstract things out there to think about. Um, Maybe some unique possibilities and perspectives. But yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to just sorry, it's kind of a change of topic, but I New Mission USA was actually I created it back in 2016, and I initially created it to help veterans and first responders. I just couldn't get myself out from under the system and the system keeping me down. So what I'm doing with this channel now is showing people that you can get out of the system. And eventually my goal is to pursue my dream, and that's to help other people, and especially veterans and like first responders and stuff. And it was I created it to as a outreach program, and I just had a series of unfortunate events, to say the least. Just I've been held down for a while, but I'm getting back on track now, and I'm looking forward to it. And once I get out of this mess and get myself situated, the goal is to gain independence, get out from the system, and like stop depending on the system. And when you do that, that's really when you get the freedom of choice and the freedom to do what you want with your time. And there are a lot of people out there, especially younger folks, that I realize they just lack purpose, direction, and motivation. Always, everything you do should be seeking something that gives you purpose, direction, and motivation, and that will lead you. I mean, it's out of a military manual. So that's another thing about me. If you got any veteran viewers out there, feel free to check out my content and or reach out to me, shoot me an email. Just but yeah, that's I hope I made that message clear. But that was
Yeah, that's
no, I think
cool.
it's
So you're a veteran as well.
yeah. I served right out of high school, and then after the military, I simply put, I had no intentions of going to college, but I gained a new appreciation for life, and wanted to do something crazy. So I went to I went to college, and that was crazy for me. And um, it's kind of it's been a interesting journey, to say the least. But it's trying to find where I fit into the system repeatedly and repeatedly. Uh, I was repeatedly confronted with barriers in life. So, but no, I mean, that's I'm kind of throwing you a testimony, but it's no, I think I th- I think I know what a lot of people are trying to find. A lot of these younger folks, especially younger folks, and that's the community I really want to reach out to. Um, there's more to life than just you know wealth, and it's like there there are a lot of people that think they're supposed to be fitting themselves into this system that we're in right now. And my advice to them is just take a step back, and hey, maybe there's another path out there that you're just not seeing. So, and just go for it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Money's not everything because you can be miserable having a lot of money, but money's good in some cases, but being a good person is more important. I definitely agree with that. And I would just
Yeah.
like to say thanks again, Kevin, for being on the show. And
Thanks, Alex.
yeah, and I really appreciate you coming back on the show and giving us your insight because you're really knowledgeable. And I really hope everybody who watches this video subscribes to his channel, your channel. And yeah, just thanks again. Is there anything else you'd like to add in the video today?
No, Alex, keep crushing it.
Okay, sounds good. And I would like to say thank you to all the viewers who are watching. And I hope you all have a good day. God bless.